Test. Good morning, everyone. What a great day, right? It's amazing. The mountains, did everybody have a chance to look at the mountains coming in? They're just glorious, right? I don't think it gets better than this. This prospect view is just insane. If you were coming the other way, make sure you go out kind of, what is that, east? It's just beautiful. I rode on the river trail last Thursday, and on the way back, all we saw were the mountains with the clouds. It was just gorgeous. Well, welcome. Do we have any, well, I'm Jim DeFontis, the president of the board, and we welcome all of you here today on campus, and of course, to those of you who are online, thank you for joining us. Are there any newcomers? I know there is one newcomer here, at least. If you're two newcomers over here, welcome. Thank you guys so much for coming. And do we have any old comers who are here for the first time since the, no, you're really old comers. Any old comers that are here for the first time since the quarantine? No? All right, so we're getting some regulars here. That's great. So I have a lot of announcements. I'll try to go through it real quick. So we're delighted today to have Ann Sims providing our music, the keyboards and vocalist. From Nashville, we've had her before. She's remarkable. Thank you again. We have our beloved Mary Jean on the platform, who we just adore and is, well, just part of our ministry. And then we have Shara Moscinska, who is our who is part of our spiritual ministry triad. Last week she did part one. Unfortunately, it was in the sanctuary closed and we did it online. For those of you who missed it, Mary Jean sent a link out yesterday, and we would strongly recommend that you take a look at her message from last week, because this week it's part two, and it's moving from liminality to becoming. And last week's message was very important, as have been Craig's and Blair's. They're all trying to build a core platform for them to speak to you. For the relationship. And for their relationship, they're working together, collaborating on unity values and other themes and principles. So this is a really important time for people to be checking in. So if you're not here, I urge you guys to take a look online and just to listen to the message. So a couple of business updates. As I've shared with you in the community meetings, the board is looking at trying to create two revenue streams for Unity of Tustin. One clearly is for the ministry. So like today, you're here for the ministry and the donations will go towards ministry. But as you know, the grounds and the property are very expensive. And what we're trying to do is to figure out a way for the property and the grounds to pay for themselves. So we've been moving in that direction. And as we shared with you, Lisa Cullabar with Chrissy Sherbonnet have been working on creating a wedding events revenue stream. Yesterday, Chrissy had some people out and they did a photo shoot for a wedding. We'll probably try to get those online. They're phenomenal. It's like being at a 5-star hotel with the way they laid it out. You saw it. Just phenomenal. So we're looking at moving wedding events here. And of course, if you want to get married, again, or if you have family members that do, you would get a discount. We're also moving into live celebration. We've created a flyer. As you know, there's been a lot of hardship and death through the past year, and a lot of people have not been laid to rest. We're opening up our grounds to the community, but of course to our family and your family. So we're also moving in that way with the two revenue streams. I know that a number of you are unhappy with our website. Mary Jean and I are unhappy with the website. The board's unhappy with the website. We understand it's a 7-year-old website. It's like having a 7-year-old iPhone that you no longer can update. The iOS doesn't work with the new plugins, with the new streaming capabilities. So we are actively looking at rebuilding, redesigning, and overhauling our website. So we're very, very excited about that. It will take time. We're wanting to be thoughtful about it, but we will come out of this with, I think, a tool that you will be proud of and enjoy using. A follow-up to that is a number of you don't like being on Facebook. We've heard that. A number of you love being on Facebook. We've heard that. So for those of you who don't like being on Facebook, today we have moved to YouTube. And for those of you who want to start looking at our live streaming, you go to YouTube, type in Unity of Tustin, and our 11 o'clock service will be live. So for those of you who just have an issue with Facebook, I would urge you to do that. And Tony made it possible for us, our AV guy. Another piece of business. Aaron created, remember how we used to in the old days have a flyer of all of our activity that you could pick up in the chapel? Well, Aaron's has created one, and this is just a prototype. We have it on the table for you guys to take home with you, and we want your feedback. So let Mary Jean, Christy, or Aaron know what you think about it. And then if it's successful, we're going to start sending this out electronically. So we know that the e-blast has a long list of information. We'd like to give you something that's just a real quick at a glance. This is what's happening this week. So take a look at the weekly gatherings at a glance. Also, last week you should have received an email from our Chief Financial Officer, Todd Bopel, on the annual giving statements. If you didn't, please reach out to Mary Jean and Christy and let them have your email. If we don't have your email address, expect a hard copy coming to your home address this week, next week, shortly. So, and let us know in 2 weeks if you haven't received a statement. Now, one of our, I don't know what it is, it's a tradition that we've had, Arnie and Pamela, I think, are you hosting it this year? Is on Super Bowl Sunday, we have the Super Bowl of Caring. So I think that that's very, very nice. So for the next 2 Sundays, starting today, Pam and Arnie will be at the donation box there to receive any donations that you might have. And they'll go in that little football bowl right over there. So give as you feel. And then they'll be there again next Sunday. And then Mary Jean, you're going to be sending out a link this week for those who would prefer to do it electronically. So Pam and Arnie, thank you guys for that. And let's see. Okay, ministry update. Mary Jean sent out the Whitestone Weekend Synopsis yesterday. If you guys didn't have a chance to look at it, I'd urge that you do. The Whitestone Weekend was a rip-roaring success. I was a part of every minute of it, and I enjoyed it. She gave you a summary from herself as well as from the ministers. So for those of you who didn't participate, you can read the synopsis and really get a good idea of what it was about. For those of you who want to go deeper, she has a link for the videos. So you could actually go to the guided meditations that we had, or the, what did you call it? The Alexio Divina discussion that we had with Shara. So it was a phenomenal weekend. So for those of you who are interested, I'd urge you to look at Mary Jean's synopsis. This Thursday, we'll have our 4th week of Reverend Blair's Rumi poetry. And I've been on 2 of them, and they're outstanding. If you're interested and you've missed it, go back to our archives. We're saving all of this for you to go back. They're free. He's making Rumi very accessible. It's a little esoteric for me sometimes. Some of the words I don't quite understand what they mean. It's a little bit like Shakespeare. You know, I need the annotated versions. He's been very helpful. Also, Thursday will be our 3rd of 16 100 Days of Prayer. Reverend Marge, as you know, has been doing that, and that's at 1 o'clock on Thursdays. And if you're interested, we recommend that you tune in on that. So I think that is all that I have. The board is very busy working with our spiritual ministry team, Mary Jean and Christy, and we thank you for reaching out and giving us suggestions and offering to help. Oh, that's it. Aaron wanted me to let you know that February 14th, we're looking for volunteers. We're looking for someone to help us with a camera, and we're looking for someone to help us with a check-in. So if anyone's called to help us camera or check-in, contact Aaron or Mary Jean and Christy. So thank you again for being here, and I'll turn it over to my wife, Annette.
Welcome, Unity. It's a glorious day. Everyone sit back, relax, open your hearts. Surely the presence I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can hear the brush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place.
Mother, Father, God, and divine holy intelligence, as we light this Christ candle, we affirm that there is one power and one presence, God the good, and that this presence is a part of us. And we come here with joy to share that goodness and that presence with each other here on campus, here online, with gratitude that we have the capacity to stay connected even during these changing times. And we are grateful for our blessings, the blessings of this campus, the blessings of the beautiful day. And we ask for God's assistance to give us the eyes to see more and more all of the blessings that are in our lives. And we pray this in the name and after the nature of the indwelling Christ's presence. And so it is.
This is the daily word for the last day of January. The daily word is now. I find my power in this very moment. There is power in this very moment. Yesterday is past, and tomorrow is not yet here. There is only this moment, ripe with promise and potential, ready for me to live into it fully. Through my many divine gifts, everything I need to get started is within me. I need not wait for the perfect moment to arrive because there is no time more perfect than now and no place more perfect than here. Procrastination has no place in my life. I fritter away my energy when I find reasons not to get started, losing my zeal and focus and inviting frustration into my life. Today I claim the power of the present and say, this is the day I begin. Now is the time to begin, to serve, to forgive, to create, and to love. And the scripture is from Corinthians. See, now is the acceptable time. See, now is the day of salvation.
Breathe in me, breath of God. Fill me with life anew. Right where I am, cleanse me again. Breathe in me, breath of God. Breathe in me, breath of life. Show me a clearer view. I know you can heal me again. Breathe in me, breath of life. Breathe in me, breath of love. Give me a heart that's true. Come take my hand, guide me again. Breathe in me, breath of love.
Beautiful. And let's take that song and start with our own breath. Breathing in the breath of God and exhaling the breath of God into the world. And let's take in the breath of life. Breathing in the beautiful, renewing breath of light into our hearts and exhaling that breath into our space. And once again, centering in the presence, let us breathe in the breath of love and allow it to intensify in our hearts. And we release it into the world. And in this space of meditation, in the centering in the breath, let us keep our awareness in our heart, in our place where we are one with our loving, where we are nurtured by the organic flow of being. And as we stay in this space, imagine once again a sacred kaleidoscope opening up. And in that kaleidoscope is the diversity of experience, of love, of expressions. And allow yourself to feel into the organic harmony and coherence of the movement in accordance with God. Flow with the hum of divine order. Flow with the grace of each revolution of the kaleidoscope. And when you are ready, imagine a rose petal or a bead or a trinket within that kaleidoscope that maybe you wish were not there. And see what needs to happen in order to include even that. What needs to reconfigure so that extra bead becomes part of the flow of the love and the life? How do you need to change to encompass just a little more than what's comfortable? How does the kaleidoscope itself need to transform and evolve? Allow yourself to move in to the creation of new harmony, more love, more inclusivity. Allow it to show you in the silence. And let us gently bring our awareness back to this present now moment, where the power of now offers us everything that we need, where we're blessed by the birds and the fountain and each other. And we celebrate our community, our togetherness, and pray and glorify this in the name and after the nature of the indwelling Christ presence. And so it is.
Here we are at the perfect time and the perfect place, showing up with an open mind and all this space. Anything can happen here, we all play our part. Here's an invitation to the center of the heart. Take my hand, here we go. What's the plan? We don't have to know. Take a breath, make a start. Welcome home to the center of the heart. It's such a perfect place to start, wiser than we know. I have learned to trust the art of letting go, 'cause anything can happen here, we all play our part. We're all in this together at the center of the heart. Take my hand, here we go. What's the plan? We don't have to know. Take a breath, make a start. Welcome home to the center of the heart. Thank you.
Music. Thank you, Annie Sims. And thank you, Amy John, for being the spirit behind this that coordinates everything so, so well. You know, what's the plan? We don't have to know. And sometimes it's good to step into that unknowing. Yesterday, being new here, I joined a meetup for a bike ride, and I just didn't know. So I get on the bike, and we start at Balboa, and we start going to Newport Beach. So far, so good. Then we go to Huntington Beach, then Dog Beach. Then we're still riding at Bolsa Chica. This is pretty long. Keep going to Sunset Beach. Keep going to Seal Beach. I mean, like my legs, you know, and we have to come back. So it was a process of discovery. But had I known that we were going to ride for almost 40 miles, I might not have gone on the journey. And then I thought, that must be what it's like for you all. If you had known this liminal space and this transition in this community would have taken so long, you might not have come on the journey. But it's always worth it. You know, there's always the discovery. There's always the unfolding. There's always the new arisings. And that's what we're kind of talking about, being in that in-between space and part of that new emergence that comes. So I'll give a brief kind of overview of where we were last week and where we're going this week. So last week, we talked about the paradoxical nature of spiritual development, that we're here as spiritual seekers, and we generally really want to grow. However, we're resistant, because although suffering is not the only way we evolve, it is an inevitable way we evolve. And we need to know how to metabolize and handle suffering so we can transform it into love and not transmit it into bitterness. And it helps to know the terrain of transformational space. And a word for that is liminal space. And liminality refers to that period of in-betweenness where we've let go of the old ways, but the new ways have not yet emerged. So we're in that in-between no reference point where we're disoriented. But that disorientation is disarming in a helpful way because it allows us to let go of the old ways that we don't extrapolate into the future and be vulnerable and open for new emergence that is coming through the field of infinite possibilities. Now, in spiritual communities, we often talk about this on the individual level. But when we've increased our consciousness and we have that new wine, it applies to organizations and institutions as well. Because the new wine needs a new wineskin. And Unity of Tustin is going through that process of becoming a new wineskin. And that led us to talk about who are we becoming? Who are we becoming? And are we still a unity church? And that's where we left off last week. So that is your previously on the Mandalorian recap sequence. And now we can continue with this question of, are we still a unity church? So first of all, I'd like to point out that for a long time, our unity movement has been picking and choosing which unity principles we are going to carry forward. Let us not forget that our co-founders, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, were celibate vegetarians. So thank goodness discernment is one of our 12 powers. And if we had been purists, you know, Todd might really be shocked at our P&L statements, you know. So there's some malleability, there's some discernment here. But the question remains, who are we becoming? Because we are becoming, we are in that process, and we are emerging into something new. And this community has a history of being on the cutting edge of spiritual development. So that's in our DNA. But we're in a different time and a different era. So we need to look at what does that cutting edgeness look like in a new time and in a new era. And that's true for our unity movement as well. Charles and Myrtle Fillmore brought in the practice of meditation back into the Christian movement in the late 1800s. Father Thomas Keating only did that with centering prayer in the 1960s. You know, we were way ahead of our time. Our first three principles, that God is good and everywhere present, that we share in that divinity and we share in that goodness, and that we can focus our attention and our mind on the good in order to positively influence our mood, our experience, and our well-being, this is just the common stuff of popular self-help and popular spiritual writings. We were way ahead of our time. Evolution, unfolding, regeneration are words the Fillmores use again and again. So evolution is inherent to the unity movement. So if we are going to be true to our unity roots, we have to keep evolving. Evolution is our identity. So our efforts to push the envelope and see what's next are actually in alignment with our unity teachings. So I culled some writings from unity teachings just for some fun and to really help look at this. But in the interest of time, I'm going to pare it down. There's information that Charles Fillmore writes about this in The Fourth Dimension, in the Atom Smashing Power of Mind. Cora Fillmore writes about this. Does anyone in here know who Cora Fillmore is? Who is she? What's that? Yes. Cora Fillmore is Charles Fillmore's second wife after Myrtle passed. A lot of us don't know that. And she's written some beautiful things, a lot of meditations that's actually often published together with the 12 Powers. There's stuff on her, but I'm going to focus on Charles Fillmore's last work, which is titled Jesus' Soul Evolution. And so even the title is fascinating. We don't often think about the fact that Jesus, too, experienced an evolution of consciousness in his human existence. And what Charles writes is this: involved in us is the capacity to evolve and bring forth divinity. In our human evolution and spiritual unfoldment, the goal is for our will to be taught by prayer and meditation how to stabilize universal substance and evolve our capacity to bring forth divinity. So in our transformational process, we are evolving our process of bringing forth more divinity, which means we're really acting as an authentic unity church. That's really the core of unity teachings, is to use spiritual practice to stabilize consciousness, stabilize the living love, so that we can express more of this into the world. So the Fillmores are quite clear that the evolution of consciousness, for each of us to unfold more God into the world, is how Myrtle would often talk about it. It's one of our most important human goals. But what results is a tension between identity and evolution, with the understanding that it's inherently Fillmorian, inherently unity to evolve. How do we continue to change and transform while maintaining a recognizable identity as unity? How do we remain faithful to our roots, but relevant for our changing times? And how do we move forward without leaving anyone behind? I mean, these are big questions. These are important things that we are being faced with, that life is serving for us. And I've been talking to many of you, and I've been curious about this question. And I've had many, many great talks with many of you, and I hope to have many more. But what I've learned is that this community has a tremendous amount of love, of care, of connection, of creativity, of commitment. And that the lion's share of energy in this community is centered in love. And that there's a depth to the connection in this community. And this is very precious. So I wanted to reflect this and celebrate and share it with you, because this is the culmination of all of the years of work, dedication, vision, and love that has been shared and cultivated within this community. Areas that appear to be unresolved are generally because there's a diversity of perspectives and preferences about how each person is best spiritually fed, which spans an entire spectrum. So on the one side of the spectrum, some members want tradition, order, community of culture, what I've learned you term normative unity teachings. Other members of this community want to be spiritually fed from a wide variety of sources. And when you hear words like 5 principles or 12 powers, you might even slightly twitch. Some of you prefer anchored teachings that are relevant to day-to-day living. And others of you want to swim in the mystery and have your minds blown. Some people want this community to have a traditional organizational structure and have our sanctuary be very quiet and peaceful. Others want an evolving organizational structure and wants to increase revenue streams by having this be a busy and dynamic campus. So we have a tension here. We have a suspension. We have a situation where we have 2 very good value systems that do not seem to be easily reconcilable, right? So this is what I call a problem. So I consulted with E.F. Schumacher and found out there are 2 types of problems. Can anyone guess what the 2 types of problems are? It's kind of like that. Good ones and bad ones. Solvable problems and unsolvable problems. And guess which one we have? Of course, the messy one. The messy one. So solvable problems are no longer alive. They do not create becoming, and they converge onto a solution. So a good example of this is the stapler. You can still get a swing line stapler with the same mechanism of action and the same cursive logo of swing line, even though cursive itself is becoming obsolete, that you could get 50 years ago. This is a solved problem. We know how to make a good stapler. Problems that are alive, problems that are unsolvable, they take place in the invisible realms, in the place of consciousness and self-consciousness and God consciousness. Problems that involve the human spirit and are more difficult to solve because they involve inconvenient, pesky things like inner experience and freedom. Things that are much harder to reconcile, that diverge into many solutions that have many answers, just like us. So the question is, what do we do with unsolvable problems? So I don't have the answer to that, but I can share some insights about the underlying process. Because something is good, it doesn't mean that more is better. So, for example, tradition, continuity of culture, and order are all good values. But if we double down on them and say that we can only do things the way they've been done, we can only study normative unity teachings, we can only interpret the Bible in a metaphysical way, we wind up becoming a dead problem, like the stapler. And we move into a type of spiritual fascism, a totalitarian prison of spiritual thought. But on the other hand, if we double down on the good values on the other side of the spectrum, and we say we can only evolve and only experiment with organizational change and only focus on new spiritual voices and perhaps toss out the Bible completely, then we have spiritual anarchy, where we are little more than the Spiritual Book of the Month Club. A lot of breadth and not a lot of depth. So the good news is that we don't need more of the same. We actually need more of each other. We need each other. And the cross-pollination of ideas presents this life-giving energy to be discharged from the extremes, and it holds it in a container. And the suspension and the tension and the seeming unresolvability of bringing the ends of the spectrum together creates a field of creativity. It creates the field of becoming through which evolution arises. Because the only real solution to divergent problems is to transcend them. It's like Einstein when he famously said, problems cannot be solved on the level that they were created. We need to transcend them into such higher order, to love, to care, to something greater than that level. And this transcendence is precisely the natural and logical consequence of radical inclusivity. Including both and drives us forward. So let me explain this from a spiral dynamics model. Who here is somewhat familiar with spiral dynamics? I know it's been part of your history, so we've got about half and half. So I'll give a little thumbnail sketch. Spiral dynamics is a map of the evolution of consciousness within humanity throughout time and how it has unfolded in stages. And in general, these stages are linked with a color. So the red value system is generally, the center of gravity is egocentric. After that, the blue center of gravity is authority-centric. The orange value system is achievement-centric. And the green on top of that is egalitarian-centric. But they're all still within the tier of fear. We all still are motivated by fear. But an important takeaway of spiral dynamics is as we move to different levels of consciousness, we transcend one, but we include it. In order to grow in a healthy way, we include the best of the developmental cycles that went before us. This is true of our life cycle, and this is true of the consciousness life cycle of the planet. Now, as we include seemingly irreconcilable worldviews, we develop new capacities, and that leads to an evolution of consciousness. So Richard Rohr has taken this teaching of transcend and include, and now he pointedly teaches a different way. He pointedly teaches we include and then transcend. That it is the work of including things that we don't know how to include that changes our consciousness so that we evolve to the next level. And what's beautiful is Jesus demonstrates this as well. In Unity, we talk about Jesus as our way shower. And as Charles Fillmore wrote in Jesus' Soul Evolution, Jesus too experienced development in consciousness during his lifetime. He too went from righteous indignation and turning over tables to bringing everyone within a radically inclusive field of love, which then transcended him into God consciousness. So can you feel that difference between transcend and include and transcend, and how it is the engine that creates that field of becoming that we can work with? We don't transcend and include. We include and transcend. And even Jesus showed us this. So to get back to us, to get back to Unity of Tustin, we too have to listen to voices on both ends of the spectrum and in between in order to transcend. We have to include and not other the other in order to evolve. And I do not know how to do that politically. And that's an entirely different talk. But we can do it here. And we know that the microcosm does influence the macrocosm. So perhaps there was some evolutionary intelligence behind the unfolding of our spiritual ministry team, which does seem to include a multiplicity of spiritual needs. Reverend Blair has 40 years experience as a unity minister, and he's fluent in normative unity teachings and successful church administration while having an open heart to the emerging future. Craig is a master teacher of the Eastern traditions, and he gifts us with the perspective of incorporating and integrating an alternative spiritual lens. And I bring forward some of the more modern spiritual teachings that are compatible with unity teachings. But I bring a special gift to this community. I don't know what I'm doing. And that's valuable. That's valuable when we are looking at Susan Beaumont's How to Lead When You Don't Know Where You're Going. I can't say we used to do it this way because I've never co-run a church before. But I can keep my ear to the ground and see what wants to emerge. But we do have Reverend Blair and we have Mary Jean who can say these things actually work. And we want to include these things because we need that too. And all of us get to participate in spiritual leadership that moves us forward by keeping our ears to the ground, by listening to what wants to emerge and what the future is asking us to bring forward. In this way, you can see that we're moving from hierarchical power to decentralized power to a network of relationships where the power lies in the quality of our relationships, where the power lies in how we minister to each other, where our power lies in our capacity to step out into loving service. Our collective leadership supports this emergence. We all share in it. And we all are participating in hearing the song of who and what we are collectively becoming. So becoming is my favorite word because it poetically names the task to unfold more God into the world, which is the heart of our unity teachings. So I'm going to end with a poem by Rabbi Norman Hirsch, which is appropriately called Becoming. Once or twice in a lifetime, a man or woman will choose a radical leaving, having heard Lech Lecha, go forth. That's what God says to Abram in the New Testament. Go forth into the unknown. God disturbs us towards our destiny. I included that in last week's talk. And Mary Jean, who I know has a sweet spot in her heart for poetry, out of my whole talk, took out that one line that actually is poetry. It shows your resonance. By hard events, suffering is not the only way we grow and transform, but it is an inevitable way. And by freedom's now urgent voice, which explode and confirm who we are. We have to disintegrate in order to reintegrate. Once or twice in a lifetime, a man or woman will choose a radical leaving, having heard Lech Lecha, go forth. God disturbs us towards our destiny by hard events and by freedom's now urgent voice, which explodes and confirms who we are. We don't like leaving, but God loves becoming. And may God continue to become through you, through me, and through Unity of Tustin for the highest good of all concerned. God bless.
Thank you, Shara. That was sort of an illustration of what happens when someone with her vision comes in and sees us with new eyes. It helps us to see ourselves from a new perspective as well. So we've come to the time of our gifts and our love offerings. I think, as Jim mentioned earlier, we sent statements this week, and it was so heart-filling to see the devotion of giving that we have in our community, and that I know will continue to grow in 2021. So join me in saying the love offering blessing. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. The love offering box is over there. You can also make a donation online. You can go to the website. I believe there's a link that you can click if you're watching us now, or on Facebook later if you tune into the service. A lot of people don't watch the service early, but they watch it later. Maybe they watch it a few days from now, which is one of the beauty of being able to have a live stream service. It's available if you can't get there at the time it's being live streamed. So, and now we have one more gift from Annie.
Bird flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. Feeling good. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. River running free, you know how I feel. Blossom on the tree, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. Feeling good. Dragonfly out in the sun, you know what I mean. Butterflies all having fun, you know what I mean. Sleep in peace when day is done, that's what I mean. And this old world is a new world, and a bold world for me. Stars when you shine, you know how I feel. Scent of the pine, you know how I feel. Freedom is mine, I know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. Feeling good.
Thank you, Annie. That was beautiful. I just want to say before we close, Jack Ragland is here with us today, ready to pray with you, whether you want to pray for something, whether you just want to be in gratitude in your prayer. Jack is one of our prayer chaplains, and he's here. Will you be over by the gardens, Jack? Okay, standing at the entrance of the garden. So thank you. And we also want to ask that you leave through that exit, and one person per each time in the bathroom. And we appreciate your cooperation. So let's end our service with the prayer for protection, which is the most powerful affirmative prayer that Unity has. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Thank you.